This is a recap of what we did in class today, and you have this notes handout. So I want to show you that if the hyperbola has the x term first, it's always going to open left and right, as you see here. And that also would indicate that the y term was the negative or had the negatively coefficient. So if the y is first, then it's going to open up and down. So think about it in the terms of y moves up and down, it would open up and down. And a couple of other important things is whichever term is first, obviously, is going to tell you how it opens, left and right, and the vertices are going to be where the actual curve will start. But you find the vertices the same way we found the vertices for the ellipse, so that's the good news. Another difference is that when you have a hyperbola, the axis is actually called a transverse axis, and then you have another conjugate axis, and there is no relationship between these with regard to size or length. The conjugate could be longer or the transverse could be longer. The main thing to remember is that the transverse has at its endpoints the vertices where the actual curve starts. So let's do a couple more problems. Let's flip over and let's do number 2 on the back. And I see that the center here is 1, -6. So be really careful when your y is first. I know this is going to open up and down, but I know that my x is my h and my y gives me my k. The vertices. So I am going to go up to the vertex and down from the vertex. And I'm going to go up and down 7. So I'm going to write 1, and then I'm going to have -6 plus and minus 7. Now you do have co-vertices, and if you wanted to write those, you would basically say these are vertices, these would be our co-vertices, and the co-vertices would be when you move to the right and to the left. So when I move to the left, I'm going to move 5 units. So for those, I'd say 1 plus and minus 5, comma, -6, and those would be the co-vertices. Okay, so in this case, if you look at the front equation, we leave a squared as the first term because it's going to always give you the transverse axis, and it will always be 2a. But if you remember, it's just the denominators. You're going to take the square root of that and double it to get the length of the transverse axis. So on this one, a squared is going to be 49. So a is 7, and I also want you to give the length of the transverse axis. So transverse axis is going to be 7 times 2, or 14. B squared is 25, so B is 5, and then that means the length of the conjugate axis is going to be 10. All right, now C. Remember we find C. Here, c squared is equal to a squared plus b squared. So we always add these two together. So to find c, I'm simply going to take the square root, and I'm going to have 49 plus 25, and that is going to give me my c value, and we'll see if we can simplify that some. That's going to be, sorry, I had the wrong thing, 49 plus 25 is going to be a 74. So c is going to actually be 74. So you need to remember that C will always lie on the transverse axis, or the foci lie on transverse axis. So that means I'm going to go back to my center of 1, -6, and I'm going to add and subtract the square root of 74. So that is just going to be, let's see if that'll simplify. Okay, so it's going to be 1 and then -6 plus and minus the square root of 74, like that. Now the asymptotes. Let's go ahead and graph this, and then I think you'll be able to see the asymptotes a little bit easier. So the center is at 1, -6 right here. I'm going to go 7 up and 7 down. So it's going to be down here somewhere. I'm going to go 5 to the right and 5 to the left. And remember, we're going to basically put a little rectangle in place And this is not really part of our graph yet, is it? But it's helping us to create our asymptotes, which then give us our shape of the graph. So I'm going to draw a line through the vertices. I'm sorry, the vertices of this little rectangle, I should say. And then I know this opens up and down, so I'm going to go to the vertex here, and I'm going to make my graph kind of approach that asymptote, just like this. And the same thing down here. Now the asymptotes will both always pass through the center. So a point on the asymptotes is always going to be the center. And then the slope is always going to be rise, which is 7, over run, which is 5. So to write this out, our slope is plus and minus. I went up 7, I went over 5. But remember, I'm doing it in both directions. I'm going up 7 to the right 5, up 7 to the left 5. So I need a positive and negative slope. So this will be y minus a negative 6 is equal to plus and minus 7 over 5, and then x minus 1. And that is our asymptote equation. There's two different asymptotes. Obviously the positive slope and then the negative slope. Okay, so let's put this in standard form. I'm sorry, go from standard to the conic form. Technically this is called general form, and we've been calling the other one the conic form. So it doesn't really matter which one we do here. Let's do this one right here. Now, I notice that x is the positive Lie coefficient and y is the negative. So I want to leave it just like this. I always want to start with the positive term because the equation starts with the positive and then has the negative. So that's why we're doing that. So 25x squared plus 100x, and then minus 4y squared plus 24y is equal to 36. I'm going to go ahead and add that 36 over. I'm going to factor the 25, and then I have x squared plus 4x, and then half of 4 is 2, squared is 4, but I really added 100. Here, I'm going to always factor out the negative 4. And what that is going to always do is change the sign, so it'll be a minus 6y. And that's a place that students make mistakes a lot. So half of negative 6 is negative 3 squared is 9. Am I adding 9 really? No. I'm actually subtracting 36. So see how interesting that is? So these are going to cancel. Now I'm ready to write out my factored form. And when I say that, I mean that's going to be my binomial squared. So x plus 2 all squared minus 4, and I have y minus 3 all squared equals 100. Then I would divide everything by 100 because I need to create that 1 on the right side. So this is very similar to the ellipse completing the square process, except this negative has to be dealt with. And so 25 over 100 is just 1 over 4. Negative 4 over 100, I'm just going to leave the negative in between. That's going to be 1 over 25. So the actual equation is going to be, let me write it down here, kind of run out of room. X plus 2 all squared over 4 minus y minus 3 all squared over 25 is equal to 1. And I know this is going to open left and right because the x is first. So I need my center. It is at negative 2, positive 3. So h comma k just like always. So negative 2, positive 3. Then I'm going to go 2 to the right and 2 to the left. I'm going to go 5 up and 5 down. Now, if this were an ellipse, we just draw it in, and we would say that it's vertically elongated. This is a hyperbola, and it's actually going to be horizontally oriented. It's going to open to the left and to the right. So I'm going to put my little dots in place for the corners of the rectangle, the vertices, and then I'm going to simply make my asymptotes through there, like that, and it's going to open to the right and to the left. And there's our sketch. Like that. And a squared is 4, so a is 2. B squared is 25, so b is 5. Meaning the transverse axis is only a length of 4. The conjugate axis is a length of 10. So again, the A and the B have nothing to do with the size of A and B. It has to do with the orientation of the hyperbola. And C is going to be the square root, and I'm going to say 25 plus 4, so 29. Square root of 29. The foci will lie inside the curve on the same line as the transverse axis. So I'm going to go back to my center, -2, and I'm going to add and subtract the square root of 29, comma 3. My asymptote, so I want to show you a really quick little way to do this. The y minus 3 will go here. The x plus 2 will go there. And the slope is simply going to be the denominator of y, which is right here, which is 25, but I have to square root it, so I'm going to go up 5, and I'm going to go to the right 2. So it's going to be plus minus 5 halves. Okay, you don't have to finish this particular note sheet, but I do want you to now do the homework. So hopefully that'll help you get through that.